Hello everybody, this is Conquering History Games, and welcome back to another guide for Kaiserreich Hearts of Iron 4. Today I am going to be going over the two major Arabian countries, and what I'm actually going to do first, I was considering briefly making this its own video, but it's seriously just so easy, and I think that people just they're thinking too hard about it. It's how do you win, I guess what you could call the War of Arabian Unification as Jabal Shammar, because if you're playing as Najd, basically the House of Saud, which becomes Saudi Arabia, it really is much easier. So I'm just going to show you guys that so much doesn't matter. Like, look at that. These technologies aren't going to help anytime soon. You're going to get your 3 divisions, assign them a general. I like this dude. Put them under your only field marshal, get them training, get some militia queued up until you run out of manpower, set them up like that, bring them down here. Okay, you're set, and that's it. We're going to go to 5 speed now, get training. Now, you start with 3 divisions. So do the Sauds. As you can see, we're working on getting 6 more, so soon we will have 9, and then after that, the Sauds will continue to have only 3, so you've got 3 times as many divisions as them, so it should be kind of easy to deal with, right? Well, we'll see about that. See, the thing is that the House of Saud is going to have 6 divisions spawn for them a little bit, basically as soon as the war begins. Now, it seems to be random where they spawn, but in my personal experience, they usually will spawn in this tile east of Riyadh, although I have seen them spawn elsewhere. I don't know if that's been fixed in a hotfix. I don't know if they're always supposed to spawn there, and maybe that's the bug. But really, it doesn't matter where they spawn, because you just need to understand how to react to the situation when it happens. And the key is having more divisions, of course. So we're just training, we're training. The war is going to begin in early March. You're going to have your usual stuff. Of course, the war with Afghanistan is always going to happen. Watch out for those pop-ups when the white peace happens. Make sure you don't accidentally click something you didn't mean to just because the white peace happens. Okay, so I like to train them up, get some of them up to regular, although you could change them. I'm personally going to change them all to cavalry. In fact, I don't see any reason that we can't do this already. You also could use some command points to either improve your general, as you will see here, so you could probably give him something else. Your field marshal, same thing. You can make him either charismatic or organization first. I'm just going to show you that it really doesn't matter which one of those that you do. We'll go ahead and stop training them right now so they have time to get their organization back by the time the war is actually going to begin. It's going to take it's March now. It should be happening any day now. Okay, so the War of Unification has happened. You can then wait a couple of days, actually almost 2 weeks, before you actually select the War of Unification. So in theory, you could continue to just train them right now and make them a little bit stronger, but I really don't think there's any need for that. You know, their organization's high enough. You could get it up all the way, but we're just going to let the war begin. We're going to declare. So here's what I like to do. You're going to take one. It's all about pinning down the enemy forces. So you're going to want to, whoops. Okay, here's what you do, right? You take one of them, you bring him down here. I'm going to bring this guy, and he's going to come around so that we can encircle this one militia division. We're going to come over here as well. Now, let's take a look at the details. They still just have 3 divisions. Take note of that. So, as soon as you take their capital, you're going to win. So, I'm going to have 2 of you come down here. I'm going to have one go this way, another one come down here. And you're also going to come down here and get their naval base. Let's slow things down and start the war. Okay, you see, look at that. We're already getting the green bubbles, so that's pretty awesome. But, you know, you kind of want to be careful. In fact, if you're worried, you can actually stop the attack if you're worried about these guys entering the capital and being afraid that you're not going to be able to take it. So we've got these 2 cavalry divisions already heading over here. As you can see, the 6 divisions of Furqat Musha have spawned here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these divisions. We're going to start coming down here and taking all this coastal land. The other one, we're going to wait and see what they're doing. Okay, look, you see, they're going to reinforce the capital, so we're going to engage with this this one cavalry division while the other one sweeps around. You're going to get this pop-up about the Rasids sending support. Does not matter in the slightest. Now notice how I'm going to have this guy come down and then whip around back up to the capital, because it's just a militia unit here and my cavalry should be able to deal with them. Now you've got plenty of infantry equipment. The problem is that you're chewing into your manpower really, but you've got plenty of rifles to continuously attack with. So as you can see, this guy's getting pinned right here. Because we got some divisions coming out, but we are about to take their capital. How much longer until this comes in? 4 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour. And that's it. You're going to win as soon as midnight hits. They've capitulated. And there you have it. It's that simple. There's no need to overthink it. Oh, and just timed out perfectly. It was right when I finished the national focus. Now, sometimes the war could end up going a little bit longer, although if you're playing as Jabal, you don't want that to be happening because every day the war goes, you're getting closer to defeat. But that was so perfect because this finished up. Now, we can't take this, and we cannot take any of these just yet. Let's let it go forward. There you go. House of Rashid victorious at long last. We have unified Arabia. The House of Rashid stands victorious over our age-old rivals, the Saudis. We are now masters of Arabia, and now the guide can truly begin. So I'm going to talk about Rashid Arabia because I think it's the more interesting one, and then we'll talk about the Saudis a little bit later. So let's look at the situation once you've unified Arabia, because it's the first thing you do in the game. So now that you've unified Arabia, you actually get a civilian factory, because at the start of the game, you only have your one, but now you have a civilian factory. Wow, look at you. Let's take a look at the national spirits. You're suffering from an archaic economy, which is giving you an additional 15% consumer goods and 15% less factory output and 25% less production efficiency cap. I suppose the consumer good factories doesn't matter that much when you've only got one civilian factory. But your populace is illiterate, so that's increasing your research time by 25%. You've got this War of Unification national spirit. You may notice that happens when you start to go to war with the Saudis. Don't even worry about that, because you're not going to be getting into any more wars until that goes away, and the bonuses are mostly just against them. You're also suffering now from the Ikhwan raids, which is basically they're people who were working with the Sauds. So this is going to increase your attrition and lower your daily political power, as well as continuing to increase your consumer good factories. Now, as soon as you got that pop-up that the House of Rashid was victorious, you then could take the aforementioned focus, although you could take these other ones. And I guess that could be a little confusing, but you'll see the check mark is there, so you have House of Rashid victorious. Notice that you don't actually have any more manpower right now, even though you've got a little bit more non-core population to draw upon. Well, that's why perhaps recruiting effort could be a good first one, because it's going to give you a straight 30,000 extra manpower. We've only got 9 divisions here available to us. These are not the greatest divisions. They're only 3 battalions each of cavalry, and really your other options are not that great either. Your infantry divisions are 6 width, but not 6 width. They have 6 battalions worth, but it's really not much at all. And what you really need to do if you are playing as Jabal Shammar, or as we are now, Rashidi Arabia, Rashadi, sorry for all my pronunciations, is you need to get ready for a war with the Ottoman Empire, which is eventually going to happen. So while you are doing that, you've got a couple of options available to you. First, of course, you could take House of Rashid victorious, which is going to give you some political power and extra stability. Then you need to make a decision. Are you going to go for a hegemony, or are you going to actually unite the Arabs? If you go with the hegemony, you've got a couple of things here. You can expand your grip, and basically these are things that are going to give you, this is going to give you more oil, and then you can begin to consolidate your grip on other areas of the Middle East. So, for example, the Levant, obviously you're getting cores on the Levant. Consolidate our grip on Yemen, you're going to get cores on Yemen, and so on and so forth. You cannot actually take these particular focuses, though, until you actually own those areas, and you have to open all of them. You can't just own a couple. So via conquest, you get cores. And without getting too exact, eventually you can have cores down here in Yemen and Muscat. You can have cores up here in the Iraqi area, and so on and so forth. You're never going to get cores on Turkey or anything like that. Let's not get too crazy. But the way that an Arabia game basically works is you first unify. You attack the Ottomans as a member of the Cairo Pact. Then the Cairo Pact begins to attack each other. And then that's usually where the game will end, if you end up dominant. Although you are a pretty big regional power, so I guess you could try your best to try and get involved in maybe India down here, or in Europe, or extend down into Africa. That's completely your prerogative. I'm just saying that's generally how an Arabia game will go. So that's on the left side here. Over here on the right, you're going to get things that are giving you cores, like right down here, tightening our hold over Najd. This is going to give you cores over all that Saudi land. You're going to hunt them down, purge the Ikhwan, get rid of these effects and things like that, until you come down here. So let's take a notice at how much you're actually able to take. So you can get absolute leadership and then you can go with leading the Arabs or the Rashid Caliphate. So the Rashid Caliphate is a little bit, for I guess lack of a better word, it's kind of strange, because when I look at the events in the files, it says that other people are a bunch of other countries are supposed to get like they're going to get events after you proclaim yourself caliph, which just says that they're going to like you more. So, for example, it seems to be like Azerbaijan and Albania and things, they get them. So they just like you more, but that seems to be about it, unless I'm missing something. So maybe leading the Arabs is going to be better, although maybe there's just a bug and they're going to fix it. And eventually you can get your 4th research slot down here. And 4 research slots is really... I'm sorry, did I say 4? I meant your 3rd research slot down here, because you do not have very many research slots available to you. You have a 4th one down here after you work on your economy. This is something that can be worked on whether you do the hegemony or you unite the Arabs. I'll talk about uniting the Arabs in more detail in a bit. But over here, you've got some trading expertise, and honestly, none of these are very good in the early going. You can get military imports, which are going to give you 500 infantry rifles in your stockpile, which could be good during the war against the Ottomans. But besides that, you're getting some research bonuses, which still are just not that great because you consider your illiteracy, there's just not much. So you get 1 more civilian factory here, 1 more military factory, 2 more military factories, and 4 more building slots over here. And then you have to stop until you are also done with the caravans of tomorrow. So you get civilian factories down here, more bonuses. This is kind of good, intensifying food imports. It's going to give you 1% more recruitable population, and then railway logistics into the industrial raw materials. Once you're done with that, you actually can come down here to the good stuff. So literacy campaign is going to make your population actually literate. Industrialization efforts will give you another couple research bonuses for your industry. You will be behind, but it'll help you catch up. Of course, like I said before, you have your research slot down here. These are some more factories and infrastructures down here. Building a better future is going to help you get rid of your archaic economy. Remember, the archaic economy is this one that's reducing your factory output by 15% as well as lowering your cap. Combating poverty is going to give you less consumer good factories. And then finally, building universities will help with your research time. You're never going to have the best economy. You just start too down deep in the hole, but it's something. The trade expertise is kind of nice too. The trade deal opinion factor could help you get another couple civilian factories if you're lucky. Over here is your military tree. Land, air, and sea have all been combined in here. And they mostly take most of your military tree. And incidentally, this and this is virtually the same for the Saudis and Jabal. So I'm not going to be going over these again when I go over the Saudis. But you've got your recruiting effort here that's giving you more manpower, and then you have several bonuses. So, for example, liberating the holy cities. That's Mecca and Medina, which are outside of your control. They're over here. Here's Medina, and here's Mecca, although they're not called that right now because the Ottomans hold it. So this gives you more attack and defense on core territory, which could be pretty good in a defensive war, especially when you consider how many cores you actually get. You're going to core basically this entire peninsula down here. Mobilizing the tribes is going to give you additional divisions, as we will see right here. You get some tribal cavalry. So these are the names like the Hashemites, Al-Sa'ab. These are other tribes per se within Arabia, and then later on you can actually elect somebody from some of these tribes to be the head of your country. But that's not important right now. But you see here's the tribal cavalry. It's 6 compared to the ones you start with, which are 3. So if nothing else, you're getting a template out of it, which is kind of good, because you might notice there's no army experience, well, pretty much no army experience that you gained from that unification war. It just happens way too fast. You could train, you could manually train, and that's going to help you a little bit, but you're never really going to have that much army experience. You have Arabian horsemanship over here, which is increasing the attack and defense of your cavalry. And as I've said, whenever you're playing as an Arabian country, cavalry is king. You also got here Sikh Gadban over here, who's going to give you more experience factor as a cavalry officer. And the Saudis have a pretty good one too. Desert warfare, bonuses in the desert if you're not using cavalry. Infantry get their bonuses there. You can get a little bit of army experience down here with the War of Resistance. But the thing is, even with army experience, you're never going to be changing your army template too much, just because, especially in the early game, you're not going to have enough manpower, and you're not going to have enough guns to increase the width of anything. So let me tell you, the war against the Ottomans is very much a team effort. You all need to be bringing something to the table if you're going to manage to pull it off. All right, so after you're done mobilizing the tribes and liberating the holy cities, you get your land doctrine bonuses, you get a little bit of an air doctrine bonus. You can get a motorized or mechanized model here. Maybe you want to do motorized mixed with your cavalry or something. And then you get the new Arabian army, which is going to give you a few bonuses. Not very great, but it's something. Contesting the Gulf is where you work on your navy. Pretty standard stuff here, working on your getting more dockyards and things like that. Really, this is going to be the only way you get dockyards, unless you really want to take the time out of your day to build them, is by taking the Kuwait naval base. Which is not going to put you in the Mediterranean. Obviously, it's gonna bring you out here in the Persian Gulf. So that covers this half of the focus tree, and we already talked about this half over here. Oh yeah, and by the way, this is the pop-up you're going to get when you get the Caliph. So let's now talk about the fun one, uniting the Arabs, because everybody loves when you get to change your country's name. But first, we need to talk about something else. Let's talk about the Cairo conference. And I'm actually going to a Saudi Arabian save file for this, because it's the same for either Arabia. So you're going to get the Cairo conference invite in early 1937, and then you're going to get a series of decisions where you're asked to make deals with like what you're going to do with Tripolitania and Egypt and who's going to claim what and such. As far as I can tell, there is no reason to not always support the plans of your allies. It's kind of like the Entente decisions you can get, or the Third International events that you get at the start of the game, where even if you're playing a country and like let's say you are the Union of Britain, and you decide you're going to leave the Third International, you still should at least attend the meetings of the International, because it's just free political power. And let's say you're playing as Australia, and you're going to go Australia first and leave the Entente. I don't really see any reason to not still attend the Entente meetings at the beginning and say yes to everything, because again, it just is free political power. So I'm usually not the kind of guy who will tell you what sorts of decisions to make in Kaiserreich. I just present you the options, but there seems to be no downside. So you're going to get economic aid plan, and sometimes going to go by supporting Idris. This has to do with Tripolitania. Support that as well. And then Egypt is going to get a pop-up here in just a second. Yeah, it's about Palestinian support. I thought that if you supported or didn't support the plan for how the empire is going to be split up, you can change how it was, because that's how it used to be back in 0.5. Like, Egypt could talk to Arabia, and then depending on how the Cairo conference went, you'd get a different amount of cores on areas. So, for example, Egypt could tell Arabia, that's fine, you can be the leader of the Pan-Arabian movement, and they get all of these cores. Or as Egypt, you can say, no, these are all my cores from Libya to Iran, to the borders of Iran, these are my cores. This does not seem to have any effect. So you're not gaining or losing political power, the decisions just don't actually seem to matter. So you might as well just support them and make sure they like you so that you're working with the Cairo Pact, because you need the Cairo Pact if you're going to win. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the Saudis. We're going to later go to the... I promise we're going to talk about the UAE. Here you have sort of a similar tree. Like, this is all basically the same. It is all the same. And then over here you have the choice, though, between getting a Saudi Hajimi instead of creating a United Arabia, you are instead going to create a land of faith. So going down this path is going to give you a huge amount of stability. Then afterwards, you get a series of cleansing focuses where you get 200 political power for most of them, and you also get to core an area. And again, though, you have to actually own the areas that you want to core first. After you have cleansed the heresy, though, which is something you could do before the war with the Ottomans. You then go down here and you're just going to get a bunch of series of events where you are basically just increasing the stability of your country. One of the interesting ones here is that you have the Jiza payments here, which lowers your consumer good factories, which could be kind of nice depending on how big it becomes. And then you come down here to Lawful Secession. But it's all about stability and war support. So stability, war support, lowering popularity of other parties, which is always good for stability, getting more political power over here, another recruitable population factor over here. I know there was another one. Yeah, right here. By the time you get down here to madrasa funding, you're getting a huge political power, half a point a day, and then eventually you come down here to you declaring the Caliphate. Although again, you have to own everything prior before you get that. I think it's kind of interesting here how you destroy any and all leftists, socialists, totalists, syndicalists that are in here. I guess it's just this idea that, oh no, they're like atheists and socialists and stuff, and they're infecting the country. And then it's minus 10% for all of them, as if you ever would have 10% of any of those three. So that's that side of the tree. The Saudi hegemony is a little bit more, what's the word? Light, maybe. You're not crushing people, you're not cleansing people. You are still purging some. You know what? It's a little more liberal, maybe, I would say. Here, it's very much a religious authoritarian government. Over here, it's more of it's an authoritarian government still with the Saudis in control, but it's more carrot than stick, if that makes sense. And of course, there are some things that are similar. But I would say the main difference between the two is that over here, after you take these lands, or at least a couple of these, and you core them, and you also get that 200 political power. Whereas over here, you have focuses that give you political power, but they don't core. So, for example, this purging of the Rashadi gives you 100 political power, and down here you get a core. After you get that core, then you can invest for all of these areas. So you've got claims on all these areas like Muscat and Yemen, although I would note when you attack Yemen, there's going to be a point where Yemen offers you some provinces, so you just leave them alone. Just ignore that and take it all. It belongs to you. There's no reason to really take that. Until eventually you're going to get down here to absolute leadership, and then this leads to your research slot. Interestingly, you have this event here, Purge the Ikhwan, where you're going to eventually get a national spirit called Salafi Discontent. The Ikhwan will revolt against you because they don't want to modernize. So you see, this is a more like, again, a religious dictatorship, very much looking towards the past. This is looking towards a new future under the Saudis. Yeah, and I already talked about this sort of stuff. So tons of political power down here. Over here, you're just a bit more stable. Now, regardless of which path you take, you can come down here to fulfilling your destiny. You can't do this until after you defeat the Ottomans. I'll talk about the situation where you'll fight the Ottomans later, but after you've done that, you can then actually unify the peninsula, and it's going to give you attack and defense bonuses against the other members of the peninsula, namely Yemen here, which incidentally also has its own unique focus tree, and Muscat, which again also has its own unique focus tree now. But we're just talking about the major players today. Once you've done that, like I said, the way it goes is Arabia is you unify Arabia, you defeat the Ottomans, you attack the other members of the Cairo Pact. So you're going to get here claims against Yemen, claims against Muscat, you can attack Egypt, and then you can attack Libya. Now, you might notice, well, Iran's not in there, and that's true. I guess Iran technically is not part of the pact, but if you were to go over here to their focus tree, they do get claims on Bahrain, the jewel of the Gulf, and in my many test runs, I've never seen them not demand it. And when they do, and by the way, it's right here, it's going to be time to go to war. And they'll puppet you and then just take that. I've never seen the Iranians just eat all of Arabia. They'll just puppet it and take the one island that they want. But it's going to happen eventually. So you'll have to eventually either puppet Iran or absorb them. All right, so let's talk about what should we talk about next? Probably the war with the Ottomans. Yeah. So eventually the war with the Ottomans is going to happen. It can happen in like 1938, and it's usually going to happen because Egypt starts it. It will happen because Egypt starts it, although you could, in theory, begin to justify it yourself. I wouldn't recommend it because you're not going to be able to take the Ottomans on their own, especially how they're very strong in 0.6. They're much stronger than they used to be. But this, I thought, was an interesting situation here. This is a situation where there was actually something which I guess could be considered a bug. You see, Tripolitania begins as a puppet of the Ottomans. This was... What happened in this particular game is the Ottomans helped attack Bulgaria. Bulgaria was fighting the Belgrade Pact, and the Ottomans were getting in on the action. Tripolitania was a puppet of the Ottomans, so they also declared war on Bulgaria. Tripolitania then flipped and left and became a part of the Cairo Pact. So now, Egypt is part of the Sultanate War, what's called the Serbian War on the Sultanate of Egypt, even if it's not, on the side of Bulgaria now. So it's a little strange. But usually the way that the war will happen is that they will take the Cairo Pact, which they can't take until after May of 1937, and then it's about 2 normal focuses worth until they destroy the Ottomans. Then they will go to war, and they will ask if you want to join them. You can say no, you could wait a little bit, and then join the war that way, for example, like this. So you see now we're fighting on their side, and you can get into it. So this is the key moment of the any Arabia campaign, whether you're playing as the Saudis or the Rashadi. If you don't defeat the Ottomans, that's it. Once you do defeat the Ottomans, now you're in a pretty good position. Let's take a look at an example of what things look like after the war against the Ottomans. Over here. We're going to be playing now as we're going to be showing you what Jabal is like. And we've just passed the Arab Constitution here, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So, oh wait, this is the wrong save file. Whoops. Oh boy. Actually, as long as we're here, okay, I might as well talk about it. So, when you're playing as the Rashadi Arabia, after you defeat the Ottomans, usually, you're going to eventually take Arabian constitutionalism. And once you do that, eventually you're going to get this pop up, the Arabian Constitution, Arabian State. Note that it is June of 1938. It's going to hit you with several articles, and you're just going to prove them. Nothing else is going to happen. Once you're done with the constitutionalism, you actually cannot establish an elective monarchy yet, because you haven't declared the United Arab Emirates, and you can't do that until the Constitution is done ratifying. Now, while the Constitution is being ratified, you are going to get a series of events deciding what to do, but again, take notice, it's June of 1938, and it won't be, in this example, until April of 1939 that you actually get to pick your monarch. Alright, and once you do, yeah. Eventually, you're going to get an event pop up saying that the Constitution has been passed, and you become the United Arab Emirates, and you get a brand new color, as you see. You're still going to have the same guy in charge, but you're going to be authoritarian Democrats now. So that's something you're going to want to keep in mind if you've been letting paternal autocrats keep getting stronger. Once you're done with that, you then can actually establish an elected monarchy, and you will have 5 candidates to choose from, all of which will give you will give you 10 more popularity for authoritarian Democrats. You can go with the Rashadi, you can go with the Hashemite. Let's go with the Rashadi here. There you go, you get the same guy, who would have thought. But once that's done, depending on who you picked, you then get to choose one of these branches. So we've elected a Rashad. This is going to give us 100 political power, but all of them do. And then you're going to get 2 focuses after that. So in this case, we can get rid of Wahhabism, which is going to give us 100 political power, and then get a little bit more stability. Different ones give you different things. I'm not going to go over every single one of them. That's something you can just read on your own. But, for example, if you went with, Hashemite, you'll get propaganda efforts helping you and more stability. Down here, Al-Sabah is going to give you more civilian factories and more oil. So they all give different things. They're just kind of tiny bonuses. Really, you might as well just pick your favorite tribe and select it or something, whatever. It doesn't matter. And then by the time you've done the UAE, you're going to be usually pretty big. In theory, you could still just be confined to Arabia, but usually it's going to be once you're this big, and you're going to have some huge cores by the time you get there. So you see right now we're on service by requirement. I've got 1.3 million free manpower. Although that's also with me getting the mass assault guy as a minister, and we've got food imports coming in. And you can kind of see here where your borders are as a core. So like right here is a core, but if I go right up in here into Diyarbakir, it becomes a colony state. So it's basically Iraq and Palestine, not Palestine. What did I say? Whoops. But basically the Arab world is cored. You don't get the Persian world cored, you don't get the Turks cored. And then you can just kind of do what you want from there. You can come down here and take Abyssinia and Somalia and stuff. But we were going to talk about the war against the Ottomans. So the war against the Ottomans, if I can remember where it was. Very annoying, very annoying. Here we go. Oh, yeah. So this was a save file that was made during a particularly early start to the war against the Ottomans. And so in this particular scenario, I was just deliberately trying to get out as many divisions as I possibly could before the war actually begins. So I've only got 17, as you can see, although they're mostly infantry, admittedly, so they're kind of wider, taking up some more manpower. But I've only got my 17 divisions. Egypt's got their 13. Iran possibly has 21 here, and the Ottomans have 30. And I've seen them have much more. They probably have less. They probably have less than they usually do, because I've seen them get in the 40s, even the 50s, by the time late 1937 is coming around. It's probably because maybe something bad happened up here against Bulgaria. So we're not going to play out the whole war here, but I'm just going to kind of show you how this is working. Whoops, I didn't actually join the war. I just wanted to show you how the land is getting divided. So, for example, what is going on? Why can't I advance? What is the problem here? Am I not in the war? Am I taking crazy pills? Oh, I joined the wrong war. Whoops. It says we're already participating in all of their wars, and yet we are not. It's a funky kind of three-way war, dang it. Well, anyway, the whole point that I was going to make, though, is essentially that, as you can see, there's foreign claims. Egypt has their claims here. The Kurds have their claims over here. But basically, everything that you see with a Sultanate of Egypt's foreign claims, they are going to occupy after the war. There doesn't seem to be anything that you can do about it. Depending on if you've annexed Anatolia or not, you can decide how to divide Turkey up, if you're going to create a Kurdistan or something. But it doesn't really matter, because you're just going to absorb it all anyway. That's more or less the idea. And that's really all there is to it. Obviously, I didn't go over every single teeny tiny event and focus that there is. The declaring of the Caliph and stuff. But it's really the Caliph thing. It's just opinions. Down here, where is it? Yeah, the Saudi Caliphate. You're gonna even Russia is gonna get pop-ups. By the way, this was so you can see this was an interesting game, as you can see, for Russia. But Russia is gonna get pop-ups about the declaration of the Caliph. Albania is gonna, Somalia is gonna, Morocco. India, they're all going to get these pop-ups, and they're all just going to decide whether to accept or reject you, and it just has to do with their opinions of you. But that's basically all there is to it. So, again, to review, unite Saudi Arabia, defeat the Ottomans, kill everybody else. You could theoretically end the game there, or you can then just go nuts and get involved in India or in Africa or in Europe. It's pretty fun. I did a United Arab Emirates game. That was a lot of fun, and once you defeat the Ottomans, it's like you have to defeat the Ottomans to even really have a game. Then after that, you can have a pretty tough war against Iran sometimes, depending on how they've been playing it. But it's a lot of fun. I definitely prefer them to the Saudis. I think the Saudis are just a little too easy, but they're both very fun. I always love any country where you can start very small and you become a huge regional power. That's really fun for me. Also, playing with cores and colonies and stuff is really fun too. Anyway, thanks for joining me. I'm Conquering History Games. Subscribe if you haven't already. Remember that all Patreons get to vote on my weekly Kaiserreich guides, on what they are, because I know there's a ton people want me to do. So Patreons get to pick, and it's the least I could do, because they help support the channel. Thank you very much. You have yourselves a wonderful day. Bye.